Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the I Heart Guitar podcast for another episode. Today's guest is Andy Gill of the legendary new wave band Gang of Four. Gang of Four are touring Australia in November. They have a new album that came out a few months ago called Happy Now. But this tour in particular is also in celebration of their, let's see, I've got all the dates here, in celebration of their debut album Entertainment, which they'll be playing in full along with other hits and things from the era, plus some stuff from the new record. New record's great, original record's classic, and you can catch them on Saturday, November 2 at the Rosemount in Perth, Tuesday, November 5 at the Lion Arts Factory in Adelaide, Thursday, 7th of November at the Zoo in Brisbane, Friday, 8th of November at the Manning Bar in Sydney, Saturday, 9th of November at the Croxton here in Melbourne, and then they're off to New Zealand, Tuesday, 12th of November at the Tuning Fork in Auckland, and then Thursday, November 13 at San Fran in Wellington. You can find ticket details, links and stuff in the show notes. But without further ado, here we go, Andy Gill of Gang of Four. So, Andy Gill of Gang of Four, welcome to the I Heart Guitar podcast.
Hello, nice to be here.
Indeed. I'm really excited that you guys are coming down to Australia, not only because, you know, it would be great to see you, but because the tour was postponed. It was meant to be March, but now it's coming up after the new record has come out, which for me is great. I hope you're playing some stuff from the new one as well as the entertainment tracks that you're coming down to.
Yeah, we will. We will do. Yeah, we'll play two or three things from the new one, and then we'll, in addition to entertainment, we'll do one or two tracks from pretty much everything, I think. Yeah.
What's it like to revisit that album at this time? Because there are themes on there that, the situations change, but the the themes kind of stay the same in some ways.
Why revisit it now? Well, I mean, it's just, it's one of those kind of, it happens to be basically 40 years since Entertainment was released. It was released on EMI in September of 79, and it was released in America the following year in 1980. So it's one of those kind of slightly pointless anniversaries, but might as well celebrate it, So that's why we're doing the kind of entertainment shows just now.
But I mean, your material is always the kind of thing where you talk a lot about what's going on in the world, and what's going on changes, but it's still basically the same. It's still we're still dealing with a lot of the same problems, just in different guises.
Yeah.
Do you find?
Sorry, go on.
Do you find that kind of influences how you approach the songs or how you feel about them today?
Well, the thing, I think, obviously, John King and I worked on the lyrics on Entertainment, and many of the subsequent records, and the two of us discussed everything, even, if John sort of came up with the lyrics, he and I would discuss it, or if I came up with the lyrics, he and I would discuss it. So we kind of knew what each other was thinking, and and I think the lyrical kind of approach to things was, I think we sort of instinctively knew not to be really a sort of specific on the day-to-day current affairs, politics. That wasn't really we didn't see that as our remit. It was more observational about the way things work, and how both on a macro and a micro level, I mean personal level, that yourself and your friends and your family and the people, how do we get through life? How what is it we do? From romance and sex and work and inverted commas leisure, and what drives us, and what are all those ideas that tell us, that try and explain and to us, like religion of various kinds and various kinds of thinking along those lines. It tries to explain ourselves to ourselves. So that, if you see what I mean, those things. Well, I mean, but I would go a bit further than that. There is a sort of question of injustice and inequality, and those things come up as well. But again, not usually in a specific current affairs type of situation, but more in general kind of thing. And so I think that's possibly why it remains relevant. I mean, there are exceptions to that, and going back, sometimes we there are the occasional points where we sort of like something to do with current affairs pops up. I mean, and obviously on the new record there's the song Ivanka, I mean, it is quite likely that it's quite possible that in 10 years from now, no one will know what that name refers to. Quite possibly.
Well,
one can only hope anyway.
Yeah. Here's what I found interesting about that song, though, is because it is very specific, but at the same time, it speaks about something in some people's nature, like human nature, that is kind of eternal.
What would you mean? Do you mean her human nature, or how do you mean?
There are certain, let's say, people in the current administration in the States who, like, it's like there are horrible sides of human nature coming out that are not necessarily unique to those people. They just happen to be in the position of power to abuse it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, being a guitar website and podcast, I'm fascinated with your guitar style. Anyone who kind of develops a style that's, clearly their own and clearly about more than just, I'm going to bash out some chords, I always find that fascinating. How do you approach the guitar? What goes through your mind when you're playing? Are you thinking of notes, patterns, attitudes? What's happening in your head?
Well, I mean, I'm not thinking about anything. Hopefully, I think when you start thinking about it, a certain lack of confidence can creep in. I suppose it's slightly instinctive, but the way I think about it, I mean, there's the very rhythmic side of it, which is very, very kind of definite, and that comes from. I mean, I suppose I sort of feel music in a rhythmic way, and when I was, my brother had a drum kit when I was growing up, and I would, spend half an hour on that every day before he did. and my poor mother, and so we'd both make a racket on the drum kit. So I mean, for a long time, I kind of didn't really know whether I was a guitarist or a drummer, and so that's the kind of the way I approach it. That rhythmically, I think of I think of rhythm patterns, and so I used to like, for example, Steve Cropper, the guitarist.
Yeah.
Not particularly because their rhythms were that interesting, but because of that clipped, clean, definitively disciplined, exact sorts of approach. And then again, similarly, but even more so, Wilco Johnson from Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
But he had the other thing of having that very direct stage demeanor, where he'd be kind of very much addressing the audience and not, he was communicating with the audience and not in his own world. But then on the other hand, there's the kind of very abstract, free-flowing stuff that someone like Hendrix, who I was obsessed with when I was a kid, and or the Velvet Underground, noise, and so I think some of the songs that I think are kind of some of the more successful songs are where it goes from a really strong rhythm into a more abstract soundscape, if you like. So a song like from the second album, for example, What We All Want, that does exactly that. The guitar is either being very much part of the rhythm, very much part of the rhythm thing, almost like the hi-hat or a tom-tom or something. It's a driving, distinct rhythm, and then it'll in a split second it'll go into something completely different, which is, as I say, the kind of the more abstract, free-flowing thing. And of course the
tension between those two is incredible.
Yeah.
So what gear are you using at the moment? I mean, I see you with a lot of Stratocasters, or I see you with a Stratocaster a lot of the time.
Yeah. There's a Strat that I suppose is my favourite guitar, which has got Fender laced pickups. I got it from the Fender factory in California at some point in the 80s. I remember driving out there and they were showing me various guitars, and I took one of them. It's sort of this, it does everything. It just kind of does everything.
Yeah.
And I've got a thin line telly, but the feedback is hard to it's hard to predict or control. So I like it for the more rhythmic. I like it in the studio, but I did try using it live and it didn't really work.
Yeah.
But my other real favourite guitar is quite a different guitar, which is the Gibson 325, which I bought second-hand from someone in LA in the 80s, and it's really beautiful. And I mean, that sounds obviously quite different. It's a much it's a less sharp, precise kind of sound. There's a little bit of fuzzy edges to it, and obviously it's a bit more driven, and it's got some fat, low end kind of elements to the sound that I enjoy.
They're one of those guitars that seems like it's almost like the sound comes out pre-EQ'd to sound great in a mix.
What, with the 55?
Yeah. And I think that's why so many 70s session guys use them. You know, it's all over that era, and it just sounded perfect right out of the box.
Yeah. I think it does.
What are you using for amps? Do you ever get into the digital stuff, or is it all, you know, analog for you?
Well, no, I mean, I'm very much a mixture of the two. What I've been doing for the last few years is, because when I'm working in the studio, working on the songs, I mean, I'm not a purist, and I'll try anything, and I very often DI the guitar straight into the computer, and then let's see what this does, let's see what this plugin does, and then let's try this thing, and you put a few things on it, and suddenly it's anything. Oh, that's a great sound, and it's very often the sound and the way what you've done with it kind of becomes integral to whatever the song is you're working on. It's not candy on the top. It's integral to the sound, and that can be, obviously there's all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff, as you know, out there, in terms of plugins within the DAW. I tend to use Logic most, but it doesn't matter what it is. There's plugins for everything, and so you use those things, and you think, okay, well, live, how do I do that again? So what I've ended up doing is putting the guitar through a laptop, which has got these plugins on it, and then it goes into the amps after that. So I can get those the sounds from the that I have in any particular song. I can duplicate that and get something the same or very like whatever it was. And I can also like just have I can bypass it and just go straight into the amp. And amp wise, so I'm not I don't mind that much. I mean, I like a certain amount of a certain amount of I like to be able to control the gain, and some amps have a pre and a post drive, which I really like, which gives you a lot of control over exactly how much you're kind of driving the amp. And I'm not crazy about the Fender combos. They don't seem to have so much control over that aspect of it. But I mean, we just come back. We were in Italy a couple of days ago at the weekend, and it was we were doing a little festival, and they were having problems sourcing the stuff that I normally use, and they said, "Oh well, we've got a Mezza Boogie and we've got a Marshall stack, and that's the stuff that I normally do not use." But but the interesting thing is, I can make it work. If I just using the system that I work with, I can turn down. Just be careful with the gain, and it can sound absolutely great.
Yeah.
and I discovered that a year or two ago we did a festival in Portugal, and I turned up, and to my horror there was a couple of Marshall stacks. But once I started playing with it and fiddling with the controls, I got what I wanted, and so I kind of basically learned that I can work with pretty much anything.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't see many players with a laptop on stage. The only one I can really think of off the top of my head is Vernon Reid, who also integrates it with a million pedals and all sorts of stuff. And it's so entertaining watching him play, because he's, you know, as a player, he's very intuitive, but he's also got this, you know, abstract element where there's a million devices on the floor, but he knows what each one will do at any given time. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you have a lot of pedals, you really need to know, you really need to work on that and know exactly what they're doing, and they have to be exactly right. And I mean, obviously, a lot of people, you know, do that. I mean, I never got into having a bunch of pedals on the floor. I mean, before I used this system, I'd use the tremolo in the amp, and I'd use maybe I have a distortion box on stage on the floor, but I never got into having a big array of pedals.
I used to do this thing when I was in a band that was like very like, it was kind of, I described it as funky grunge. I would do a thing where every gig I would have what I called the hot spot on my pedal board, and I would put a different pedal in that spot every gig. And, you know, if I wanted something a bit different, well, tonight it's a flanger, you know, tomorrow night it's a phaser, or, you know, harmonizer, or God knows what. So I had that element of
So you were just like pushing yourself by trying completely different things.
Yeah, and it'd be like, if I've got to do a fill in between vocal lines or something, I'll step on this and try and, you know, reckon with it in the moment.
Yeah.
It usually worked.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I better let you go. Thanks so much for your time. This has been a great chat, and I can't wait to see you guys. This is going to be an amazing tour.
Well, are you Melbourne?
Yes,
is that where you are?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it, and we all are. It's going to be really good.
Cool. Well, I will catch you then. And again, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks. Yeah, good talking to you.